I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Well, okay, if you're driving, maybe don't do that. Keep your eyes on the road. But just let your mind go there. Try and imagine the sound of 81,000 people screaming. And I don't mean, a happy cheer. I mean that physical roar, the one you only get in Death Valley on rivalry night.
It's a vibration more than a sound.
Yes. It's physical. It shakes the camera. You can feel it in your chest. It's the sound a place makes when it just expects to win.
Well, and for the last decade, that expectation has been reality. That's what they do. They bring you into their house, the noise starts, and they suffocate you.
They dismantle you piece by piece.
They call it the Death Valley Avalanche, and that's what it is. An opposing coach told me that years ago. The noise hits, your right tackle flinches, you get a false start. The linebacker can't hear the check from the sideline, missed assignment. And before you've even had a chance to, catch your breath, you look up and you're down 14 points.
It's over before it starts.
Exactly. That's the effect.
Okay, now I want you to imagine that sound just vanishing, gone. In the span of what, maybe 4 seconds, it goes from a jet engine taking off to a library.
The sound of the air leaving the building, it's the most stunning sound in all of sports.
It really is. And the only thing you can hear is the slap of shoulder pads, a single whistle, and about 60 guys in garnet and black absolutely losing their minds on the sideline.
That's the silence we heard last night.
That is where we are living today. We are living in that beautiful, beautiful silence. Because yesterday, the script wasn't just flipped.
No.
It got torn up, it got shredded, it got thrown in the trash. The scoreboard was real. South Carolina, 28. Clemson, 20.
In that Palmetto Series trophy, it's on a bus. It's coming back home to Columbia where it belongs.
It is. And look, I know what people are going to say. You're going to hear it all week. Oh, it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. Throw out the record books.
It's lazy. It's such a lazy analysis.
It is. Because if you actually watch the full 60 minutes of that football game, you know this was not a fluke. This was not chaos theory.
No, this was an execution.
That's why we're here. Welcome back to the deep dive. I am still running on pure adrenaline and maybe 2 hours of sleep, but we have a job to do. This is not just a victory lap. We're not here to just high-five and watch the highlight of that Kyle Bynes touchdown on a loop.
Although, let's be honest, we are definitely going to talk about that play. A lot.
Oh, we have to.
Oh.
It's required. But if you only look at the score or you just watch the highlight reel, you miss the entire point.
You miss the how.
Yes, the how. The mission today is to figure out how a team that was, in a dogfight with Mississippi State last week, how that team walked into the home of the #2 team in the country and physically dominated them for 30 minutes of football.
Physically is the word. This wasn't trickery. This wasn't a lucky bounce of the ball. This was, as you said, 60 minutes of just ball.
So we've got the game tape queued up, we've got the internal season review docs, and we've got the stats that you probably didn't see on the TV broadcast. We're going to answer one simple question. Was this a miracle?
Or was this the official arrival of the AC Jordan era? And I can tell you, if you look at the tape, if you look at the growth over the last 3 months, this was not a miracle.
No.
It was a blueprint. And it's a blueprint that has been under construction since the first day of fall camp.
I love that. So let's look at that blueprint, segment 1. The road to Death Valley. Because you really can't appreciate this win if you don't understand how bumpy the ride was to get here. This is year 1, AC Jordan. If you rewind back to August, what was the feeling? Because I know fans like me, we were hopeful, but man, we were scared too. We've been hurt before.
The internal review documents from the preseason are, they're pretty fascinating on this. The coaching staff, they knew they had what they called flash talent. They knew they had skill players. Guys who could run, guys who could make you miss.
Sure, we've had those guys.
Right. But the #1 concern, in bold letters, was trench talent. They were genuinely worried if they had the beef, the weight to move people in the SEC. They knew about the offensive line depth issues, and they were concerned about the interior of that D-line.
And we saw that play out, didn't we? We saw the speed early. The ECU game was, it's a track meet. And then the NC State blowout, 59-14.
Looked easy.
It looked like we were playing a video game. I think a lot of us got a little ahead of ourselves.
That's what the staff called the false summit. You beat up on a couple of teams, you were just flat out faster than, and you start to think, hey, maybe this rebuild is already over.
Right, we've arrived.
And then week 3 hits, and Alabama comes to Columbia.
The reality check.
Yeah.
35-13. And honestly, the score felt generous. It felt so much worse than that.
This game wasn't a loss, it was a diagnostic. Alabama didn't do anything exotic. They didn't run trick plays. They lined up and ran duo and inside zone. These are basic, fundamental, violent, power running plays.
Right at us.
Right down the Gamecocks' throat, all game. They just own the line of scrimmage. And the main takeaway for AC Jordan in the review after that game was one simple sentence. We aren't strong enough yet.
The gap in the trenches was a canyon. It was massive.
It was. And that's what makes what happened last night so, so incredible. Because you're right, we all saw that gap in week 3. Alabama pushed us around our own stadium. So you fast forward to the end of November, you're on the road against a team that's just as talented as Alabama, a defensive line full of future Sunday players, and suddenly that gap, it's not there anymore.
It just wasn't there.
That's development, that's coaching, that's a strength program. But I think if you really want to find the soul of this team, the exact moment where its DNA changed, you don't look at a win.
You look at the Oklahoma game.
You look at the Oklahoma game, week 12.
The heartbreaker. 38-37. Number 1 team in the country comes to our house. Man, what a game.
On paper, it's a loss. It goes in the L column.
Yep.
But you have to look at the situational football there. South Carolina scores a touchdown late. There are, seconds left on the clock?
Yep.
You're at home. You're playing the number 1 team. The safe play is you kick the extra point. You tie the game. You go to overtime.
It's the let's just survive play. 99 out of 100 coaches take the point there. You don't want to risk losing in regulation when you fought that hard.
Right. But AC Jordan doesn't call for the kicking team. He leaves the offense on the field. He goes for 2. He goes for the win right then and there.
Which, at the time, I'll be honest, my heart jumped into my throat. I was thinking, what is he doing?
And to a casual fan, it probably looks reckless. It looks like a gamble. But think about what that says to the players in that locker room.
That you trust them.
It's more than trust. It's a jolt of pure electricity through the spine of the program. He's telling them, I believe you can win this right now more than I fear the consequences of losing it.
Even though they failed. They didn't get the 2-point conversion. They lost.
The result, in the long run, didn't matter as much as the intent. In the internal review, player after player pointed to that exact moment as the shift.
Wow.
It completely eliminates the fear of failure, and you absolutely cannot walk into Death Valley and beat Clemson if you are afraid of making a mistake.
Yeah.
That one play call against Oklahoma, even in a loss, it calloused their minds for the pressure they were about to face. It forged an identity.
We attack. We don't play not to lose.
We attack.
And then, okay, right after that emotional roller coaster, that high of the comeback and the low of the loss, you get the definition of a trap game.
At Mississippi State. In Starkville, at night.
I will be the first to admit, halfway through that first half, I was nervous.
Yeah.
It was ugly. It was sloppy. It was not pretty football.
It was a classic SEC meat grinder. You're on the road. It's a night kick. You've got that emotional hangover from the Oklahoma game. It is the perfect recipe for a letdown loss that tanks your season. But look at how they won that game. The 48-22 final score looks like a simple blowout, but it wasn't. The offense was sputtering early. It was the other 2 phases.
The defensive special teams. The blocked field goal was huge. The forced fumbles. I mean, Stephon Robinson forcing 4 fumbles by himself.
It's absurd. You never see that. It's a statistical anomaly.
It felt like they learned a different way to win that night. Because earlier in the season, it felt like we needed Jermaine Paul and the offense to score 40 points just to feel safe. In Starkville, the defense basically said, don't worry, we got this.
Precisely. That night in Starkville was the dress rehearsal for the grit they needed last night. They proved to themselves they could win ugly. They proved the defense could create points, not just prevent them.
So they didn't panic.
They didn't panic when they got to Clemson, and the offense stalled a little bit in the second quarter.
Yeah.
Because they'd just been through it. They knew they had multiple ways to win a football game. They weren't a one-trick pony anymore.
So that sets the stage. Clemson comes in 10-1, ranked number 2. A win puts them in the playoff, no questions asked.
It's a coronation for them. It's senior night.
And then you have South Carolina. We roll in at 8-3, ranked 17th. We're not fighting for a playoff spot. We're fighting for respect.
And let's not forget the Vegas line. The people whose job it is to get this right, they had Clemson favored by, 17, 19 points?
Something crazy like that.
That is a massive, massive line for a rivalry game. The implied probability there is that Clemson doesn't just win, they win by 3 scores and are resting their starters by the 4th quarter. This was supposed to be a tune-up.
A warm-up act for their championship run.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the game itself. Segment 2, the game flow. Or, as I've been calling it, how to weather a hurricane. Because that first quarter, man, it felt like a heavyweight title fight. Both guys just met in the center of the ring and started throwing haymakers.
It did, and 9 times out of 10 in Death Valley, when Clemson lands that first punch, the avalanche we talked about begins.
Right. They march down, kick the field goal. It's 3 in. The crowd is at that deafening level. And in the past 3 years, this is the exact spot where South Carolina would have a 3-and-out.
Or a turnover.
Or turnover, right. You punt, Clemson gets great field position, they score a touchdown, and boom, it's 10-0, and you can already feel the rout starting.
But that's not what happened this time.
No, it is not. South Carolina answered immediately. And I think we need to pause on how psychologically massive that opening drive was.
It was a statement.
It was methodical, it was confident. They just marched right down the field and punched it in for the touchdown. 7-3. And just like that, you silenced the avalanche.
You did. You sucked the oxygen right out of the stadium. That drive told Clemson, it told the 81,000 people there, we are not here to collect a check and go home. We are here to fight you for 60 minutes.
You could just see it on the sideline. The body language was different. They weren't rattled. They were just looking for the next play call. Right. But then came this second quarter.
The test of resolve. This is where, in the past, the depth chart differences really start to show up.
And Clemson surged. They found a rhythm. They scored 2 touchdowns. The momentum swung back, and it swung violently. It honestly felt like the rope was starting to slip through our hands.
That was the most dangerous part of the whole game. Their quarterback, Jonas Williams, he started hitting those throws to the sideline. They were getting their athletes in space, and you could see our defense was reeling a little bit. They were on their heels.
At halftime, Clemson had the lead. The crowd was back into it.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, okay, this is where it happens. This is where the wheels fall off. We saw it against Arkansas earlier this year.
You did. The defense gets gassed. The offense starts to press. You try to make a hero play. You throw an interception. Mistakes compound on each other.
But the phrase that kept popping into my head watching it live was, they just stayed attached. They didn't let Clemson get away.
It's the old cliche, bend but don't break. And I normally hate losing it, but it's technically accurate here. But it's why they didn't break. That's interesting. Think about their red zone defense in that second quarter. Clemson was moving the ball between the 20s, no doubt. But they were not getting chunk plays. They weren't getting easy scores. South Carolina made them execute 10, 12-play drives to get points.
They made them earn every single inch.
They made them work. So even though Clemson was winning on the scoreboard, they were burning clock, they were burning energy. You could see the frustration on their sideline. And our guys went into that locker room at halftime bruised, for sure, but they were not beaten. They were still attached.
And man, whatever A.C. Jordan and that staff said in that locker room, we need to bottle it and sell it. Because the team that came out for the third quarter was playing a completely different sport.
A different sport.
Let's get into it. Segment 3,
Yeah.
The defensive masterclass. Because that's what it was, a masterclass.
This is where the game was won and lost, period.
If you just look at the box score from the second half, it's jarring. It doesn't look real. Clemson scored 3 points. 3 total points in the entire second half. Against an offense that was being talked about as maybe the best in the country. How does that even happen?
It starts up front, and it starts with a concept called run fits.
Okay, so for everybody listening who hears the announcers say that phrase on TV but might not know exactly what it means, break down a run fit for us.
Yeah, of course. So the simplest way to think about it is like a zipper. On any given run play, you have the offensive line, and the defense has to fill all the gaps between them. Every defensive lineman, every linebacker has a specific gap that is their responsibility.
Okay.
If every player correctly fills their gap, the zipper is closed. There's nowhere for the running back to go. If one guy gets out of his gap, the zipper breaks, and that's how you get a big run.
And against a team like Clemson, with their speed and their scheme, that zipper usually bursts open a few times a game.
Exactly. Clemson's whole offense is built on misdirection. Jet sweeps, motion, RPOs. They want to confuse you. They want your eyes to look in the wrong place for just a split second. So 2 of your defenders accidentally end up in the same gap, leaving another one wide open.
But last night, that just didn't happen.
It was surgical. The discipline was off the charts. They didn't chase the eye candy. They read their keys. They trusted the guy next to them to do his job. And they closed that zipper on almost every single play.
The stat sheet is Exhibit A Clemson football. 19 rushing attempts for 42 yards.
That's almost impossible to do.
It's an average of 2.2 yards per carry. You can't run an offense like that.
You can't. In modern college football, if you can't get at least 4 yards on a first down run, you are playing the entire game behind the sticks. You're in 2nd and 8, 3rd and 7, and that's a losing formula.
And it had a huge effect on their quarterback, Jonas Williams.
A massive effect, because his entire game is built on the RPO, the run-pass option.
We hear that term 1,000 times a game.
And for good reason. Basically, the quarterback is reading one specific defender, usually a linebacker or a safety. If that defender crashes down to stop the run, the QB pulls the ball and throws it into the space the defender just vacated. If the defender hangs back to cover the pass, the QB just hands the ball off into a favorable look.
So the defender's always wrong.
He's always wrong. It puts him in a bind. But South Carolina solved that equation last night.
Because Williams has been torturing defenses with it all year.
They did it by taking the run out of the run-pass option. Their defensive line was so aggressive, and the linebackers led by Sua Tafisi were so quick to fill that the running lanes were gone before Williams could even finish his read.
So he had no choice.
He had no choice but to pull the ball and throw it almost every single time. South Carolina effectively made him one-dimensional.
And even though he still threw for over 300 yards.
A lot of that was what I like to call empty calories. He got 300 yards because he had to throw the ball 40-plus times. The Game Talk defense was happy to let him complete a 5-yard hitch route on the sideline, rally 3 defenders to the ball, and make the tackle. They took away the deep shots down the field, they took away the explosive plays, and they completely neutralized the run. They essentially dared him to beat them by dinking and dunking his way down the field, and he couldn't do it.
And that all leads to the fourth quarter, the takeover. This is where it went from being, a great effort in an upset bid to a legendary performance.
14 unanswered points to win the game. But it wasn't just the points they scored, it was the execution in the highest leverage moments.
Situational football.
This is what separates good teams from programs that win championships. Look at 4th down. Clemson went 0 for 1. They had a 4th and short that would have kept a drive alive, and the defense just built a brick wall at the line of scrimmage.
And on the flip side, South Carolina on 4th down.
3 for 3. Every time they needed a yard, they got it.
Yep.
That's not just scheme, that's belief. That's A.C. Jordan trusting his players and those players executing.
And the red zone. That's the stat that just jumps off the page for me.
That's the stat that won the football game. South Carolina made 4 trips to the red zone. They came away with 4 touchdowns.
Not field goals, touchdowns.
Touchdowns. When they got close, they finished the job. Clemson, on the other hand, had drives stall out and had to settle for field goals. That's the entire margin of victory right there. That's the difference between a good effort loss and a program-defining win.
Let's talk about the guys who made those plays. Segment 4, the architects of the upset. Because schemes on a whiteboard are great, but at the end of the day, players have to go out and win the game. And we have to start with the quarterback, Jermaine Paul.
Poise over perfection. That's the perfect headline for his performance.
It is, because you look at the stat line, and it's not going to blow you away. 26 of 36, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. It's not Heisman numbers. But if you watched him play, if you watched his demeanor, he wasn't out there trying to win a shootout. He was managing a war. He was a field general.
And we just have to do a deep dive on the throw.
The go-ahead score.
The
The situation is just, it's suffocating. You're in the red zone. The game is on the line. The crowd is so loud you can't hear yourself think. And they're trying to will a sack into existence. And Jermaine Paul just stands in the pocket like he's running a 7-on-7 drill in practice.
He never panicked. He didn't tuck it and run at the first sign of pressure.
He waited. He held the safety in the middle of the field with his eyes for just a beat. And then he threw an absolute laser, threaded the needle to Kyle Bynes for the touchdown.
Kyle Bynes, a senior. A guy who's been here through it all. He's seen the coaching changes. He's sat through 3 9 seasons. He's played in front of empty stands. For him to be the one to catch that game-winning touchdown.
It's cinematic. It's poetic justice. And it says so much about Paul's development.
Because he didn't try to force the ball to his number 1 receiver. He read the defense, saw the coverage dictate where the ball should go, and he trusted a reliable senior to make the play. Think about it. He has over 30 touchdowns on the season. A younger quarterback or a guy with a bigger ego might try to play hero ball in that spot. I have to make the Heisman play. Paul didn't do that. All game long, he just took what the defense gave him. Checkdowns, intermediate routes, and then when the critical window opened, he was ready. That's maturity.
So you have Paul, who was the calm in the storm, and And then you have Tyler Abraham, who was the storm.
He was the definition of grit last night, just pure, unadulterated toughness.
The man was battling through 2 separate injuries during the game. You could see him on the sideline getting taped up between series. You could see him limping back to the huddle. And he still goes for 15 carries, 135 yards.
And that 42-yard run in the second half, that was a backbreaker. That broke Clemson's will.
It really did.
Because when you're on defense and you know the guy across from you is hurt, you know he's banged up, and he still runs right through an arm tackle and explodes into the secondary, that is just demoralizing.
It's a statement. It tells the other team, I want this more than you do, and you cannot stop me.
Right. When Clemson started dropping 7 or 8 guys into pass coverage to try and stop Paul, that's when Abraham put the team on his back. He was the battering ram that wore them down. And by the fourth quarter, you could see it. Their defenders didn't want to tackle him anymore.
And it wasn't just the big names. It was that next man up mentality we've seen develop. I mean, Manuel Chavez, the third-string scat back, comes in and punches in a touchdown.
Stephen Kirkus, who was the leading receiver against Mississippi State, he's out there making key blocks on the perimeter to spring Abraham.
That's the depth. That's the difference between September and now.
That's it, exactly. In that Alabama game, if a starter went down, there was a noticeable drop-off. By week 13, you have guys like Chavez and Kirkus coming in and playing meaningful, winning football. That keeps your stars fresh, and it's why we were the stronger team in the fourth quarter. It's all connected.
Let's flip over to the defense, the guys who built that wall in the second half. And you have to start with Marcus Eason, the free safety.
13 tackles and a half sack from your free safety. He was everywhere.
Now, you're the expert. Normally, when I see that a safety has that many tackles, I get a little worried.
And you should be. Usually that's a red flag.
Why is that?
Because it typically means the running back is getting past your defensive line and your linebackers, and your safety is the last line of defense, making touchdown-saving tackles 10 yards downfield.
Gotcha. But this felt different watching it live.
It was completely different. These weren't saving tackles. These were downhill attacking plays. Eason was reading the run so quickly that he was meeting the running back at or behind the line of scrimmage. He was essentially playing as a fourth linebacker. He was the eraser for any mistake.
And then there's Su'a-Tafizi, the Mike linebacker. 12 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a sack, a pass deflection. I mean, that guy was living in the Clemson backfield.
The synergy between Eason and Tafizi was a thing of beauty. I've been describing it as a hammer and anvil.
I like that.
Tafizi was the hammer. He's the one crashing downhill, blowing up the pulling guard, forcing the running back to stop his feet and try to change direction in the backfield.
And Eason is the anvil.
Eason is the anvil, waiting there to finish the play. He was flying in like a heat-seeking missile from the secondary. Clemson's runners had nowhere to go. They tried to bounce a run outside. Tafizi was there to set the edge. They tried to cut it back inside. Eason was there to clean it up.
It was suffocating. And I also want to give a shout-out to Stephon Robinson. I know his stats in this specific game weren't as flashy as they were against Mississippi State.
But his presence was felt on every single snap. You do not force 4 fumbles in an SEC game without every offensive coordinator you play for the rest of the year knowing exactly where number 7 is on every play.
So they were accounting for him.
Constantly. Clemson was sliding their pass protection towards him. They were chipping him with tight ends and running backs. They were terrified of him creating another turnover.
And that attention just opens things up for everyone else.
It's a force multiplier. If they're using 2 guys to block Robinson, that means Su'a-Tafizi has a one-on-one matchup with a running back. And that is a matchup we will take every single time. Robinson's dominance the week before set the tone for this entire defensive identity. He made them believe they weren't just a defense, they were playmakers.
Okay, so we've broken down the game flow. We've highlighted the key players. Now we get to the big one. Segment 5. The so what? What does this victory actually mean for South Carolina football?
I mean, in a word, everything.
The record is 9-3, 6-3 in the SEC. But this feels like so much more than just a 9th win.
Because it validates the process. You hear that from every new coach, right? Trust the process. It becomes a slogan.
Yeah.
But until you get a signature win, until you go on the road and beat a giant, it's just talk. It's just words on a T-shirt.
This is the receipt.
This is the receipt. This is proof of concept. Beating Clemson on their field proves the process works, and it fixes the narrative from earlier in the year.
How so?
Well, we struggled to close out games against Arkansas and Oklahoma last night. We dominated the fourth quarter. We sometimes turned the ball over in crucial moments last night. We won despite a couple of turnovers, which shows a new level of resilience. This wasn't just a win, it was a graduation ceremony.
And you can feel the ripple effect across the entire country.
Yeah.
Clemson drops from number 2 all the way to number 9. In South Carolina,
Yeah.
we jump up to number 13.
And we enter what I love to call the cluster of chaos.
The cluster of chaos.
Look at the national landscape. You've got undefeated Alabama at the top, and then it's a mess. A beautiful, beautiful mess. And South Carolina is now right in the middle of it.
You're part of the conversation.
You're more than part of it. You're no longer just a feel-good story or the little engine that could. You are now a hard data point that the selection committee has to deal with.
A jagged data point.
A massive, jagged data point that disrupts the whole curve. You're a 9-win team from the SEC whose losses are a 1-point heartbreaker to the number 1 team in the country and 2 road games against top 10 opponents. You have wins over ranked teams. You just dismantled the playoff hopes of the number 2 team in their own stadium.
So when the committee is ranking teams,
They have to respect that. They have to account for that. The simple truth is South Carolina is dangerous. No one wants to draw this team in a bowl game right now. Absolutely no one.
because we're not limping to the finish line, we're peaking at the right time.
Most teams are beaten up and worn down by the end of November. South Carolina is sprinting through the tape.
And just think about the culture shift from the beginning of the season to now. Compare that Week 3 Alabama game to this Week 13 Clemson game.
Night and day.
The talent gap looks like it's closed. But it's not because we magically signed a bunch of 5-star recruits in October.
Yeah.
It's scheme, and it's belief.
Belief is a tangible football resource. It's real. When you 100% believe that your coaches have the right plan and you believe the guy next to you is going to do his job, you play faster. You don't hesitate.
And hesitation is what gets you killed against teams like that.
That's what kills you. Last night, there was 0 hesitation, only aggression.
It's so powerful. So let's wrap this thing up. Before we go, I just want to take a moment for the fans. For the people listening right now who sat through that 3-year losing streak, the people who had to go into work on Monday and listen to the jokes from their coworkers wearing orange, the ones who sat in the rain watching bad football because they love this team.
This win is for them. This validates all that loyalty.
It really is. The pride you feel wearing garnet and black today, it just hits different. It feels lighter. You know, you walk a little taller, you make eye contact with someone wearing a tiger, and you don't even have to say anything.
You just give them a little nod.
You just know.
And they know.
And looking forward, this is the most exciting part. This doesn't feel like a one-off fluke. This feels sustainable.
It does.
Jermaine Paul is a redshirt sophomore. He'll be back. You have this young core on defense. You have a coaching staff that just proved they can go into the toughest environment in the country and out-scheme a dynasty. We're not in a rebuild anymore.
We're reloading.
We are reloading.
So, no, we are not going to make any playoff predictions. We're not going to guess what bowl game we're going to. That will all shake out soon enough. But we know one thing for sure. South Carolina is officially back in the national conversation. And they didn't knock politely on the door. They kicked the door clean off its hinges to get there.
They absolutely did. What a night. What a team. And it feels like we're just getting started. To the deep dive, I'm signing off. Spurs up.